Alright, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be doing a first impressions slash unboxing. It's already unboxed as you can see, but anyways, it's the brand spanking new, just now released as of today, Zerotech Trace Advanced 5-30. This one has the TREMOR3 reticle. We'll get into the different options. Fun fact about this particular scope is this was the very first one in the wild in the US. So obviously some of the people at Zerotech had these, but as far as a person that was not tied in with Zerotech, not a part of the company, this is the very first one. So I'm super grateful that Zerotech did send it to me. That is a huge honor to have the very first one to be sent out to just a regular person. So obviously I've already unboxed it and I've got it set up in my mount. So this is Warren's precision mount, and then I've got an offset dot. Now the reason this set up is because today is Tuesday and I have my very first precision rifle match. Well, it's a gas gun match. It's a quantified performance, so it's a DMR match. I'll be running the scope in it, but like I said, today's Tuesday and I've got that match on Saturday, so I'm really running out of time. So I went ahead and I've got this all mounted up. I actually had it already mounted on the rifle, but I pulled it off for the video. Obviously you're not going to get the red dot or the mount with the scope, but everything else will come with it. And so we're going to talk about what you get in the box, and then we're going to talk about my impressions of the actual scope itself. So the box here, one thing that I will say about Zerotech, now this is probably overlooked by a lot of people and y'all don't care, but the Trace Advanced series, their packaging, it is so satisfying. When I first got it and I tried to pull the box out, I tried to yank it, and there's such a tight fit between the two boxes that you have to open it slow. I mean, look, it just slowly glides out. It's phenomenal. Super satisfying. Same way going back in. Now this box doesn't weigh hardly anything because the scope's out of it, but even then you can see it's just like a perfect little slide in there. So again, the packaging is phenomenal, and that's something that I appreciate. I like the attention to detail. It's got good graphics and whatnot on it. So this scope was manufactured in Japan, and then the final assembly and inspection was done in Australia. So Zerotech is an Australian company. The inside of the packaging, I'll roll in close-ups of all this. You get just your little card that's got your instructions and all that stuff on it. You get a little neoprene cover if you want to use that. Here's some more just hardware, lens cloth, stickers, more papers and whatnot. And then it does come with a sunshade. I chose not to use the sunshade. I don't get that much benefit out of them, and I don't think they look quite as good. But if you do want to use the sunshade, it does come with it. It is aluminum. Now I'm going to use a cheat sheet when talking about the specs because I don't want to get anything wrong. And I will have all of these specs thrown up on the screen just in case if I miss something or you want a screenshot or whatnot. So again, it is a 5-30 magnification, first focal plane. There's two reticle options. This is the TREMOR3 reticle. I'm a huge fan of the TREMOR3 reticle. I've been shooting it for about a year. You can also get an RMG reticle. It's slightly less busy, but again, both of them are first focal plane. It is illuminated reticle. It's 34mm tube, 56mm objective lens. The weight is 35 ounces. The internal elevation adjustment is 35 mils. It does have zero stop. And the turret index is 0.1 mils. So for every click is 0.1 mils of adjustment. Your ocular focus does lock in place, so you don't have to tape it or do a witness mark or anything like that. So the ocular lens, once you get it adjusted, it's got a locking ring and you can lock that in place. It does come with really nice scope caps or lens covers. So these are the Tenebrax covers. They're made in Canada. Again, really nice. They lock up good. They fly open, and then they do lock. You can drop them down and lock them in place. So the scope that I have to compare it to is the little brother, and I've been using this one for about a year. So this is the Zerotech. It's the Trace Advanced 4-24 with a TREMOR3 first focal plane, but this is a 30mm tube, whereas this one is a 34mm tube. Now I've got absolutely no complaints with this scope. and I will continue to use it as much as possible. I've just got to get another rifle to put it on, because this one was on the rifle that this one will now sit on. So I've had absolutely no complaints with this scope. I've taken it out past 1,000 yards without any issues. I've absolutely loved this scope and still love this scope. And so I was super excited when Zerotech announced this one, because I was really excited for the 34mm tube. I didn't realize how much of a difference that would make from going from a 30mm tube to a 34mm tube, but the field of view that you get is incredible with the 34mm tube. Obviously, it's going to come at a cost. This is a much bigger scope. It weighs a lot more than this one does. Takes up a little bit more space. It's just a beefier scope all the way around. So there are some pros and cons to it. But if you can swing it, that 34mm tube is really, really nice. So as you can see, the size difference between the two, obviously 30mm, 34mm, you can see the size difference in the turrets. Now, I will say that the turrets feel just as good on both of them. Both of them are zero stop as far as the amount of tactile that they are. Now, I like that big turret. That's just really, really nice. Both of them are side parallax adjustment. The windage on both of them is capped, so you ain't got to worry about knocking that off, because for the most part I'm going to use my windage to sight it in, and then I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to hold for wind. So obviously you can see it's a beefy scope. The turrets feel absolutely phenomenal. They're super audible and tactile. So the elevation does not lock in place, but it does have zero stop on it. You've got your side parallax over here, so that goes from 20 meters all the way to infinity. It's really stiff, so you don't have to worry about bumping it, but it turns smoothly. So your illumination is the same knob as your parallax. The illumination turn on is just right here on the side. It's a single button system. So you tap it to turn it on, continue to tap it, and that will bring the brightness up. Once it gets down to the bottom, it'll cycle back around, and then you keep tapping it and it'll bring it back up to the highest amount of illumination. Once it's to the highest amount of illumination, it will flash twice, and that lets you know that you are as bright as it goes. To turn it off, you'll just hold down the button and the illumination will turn off. I mentioned the Tenebrex lens covers. So again, you can see there's really, really awesome lens covers. They're rubberized, so they don't clank or make much noise on anything, and they lock in place, as you can see right there. Both of them are exactly the same. Lock in place, and if you need to lock them, you just press it down and there's a little detent. It'll lock in place. And as well, I mentioned the ocular lens does lock. So I'll demonstrate that here. So what you'd do is you'd set your ocular lens to focus however you need to. And you've got this little locking ring right here. Once you lock that in, then your ocular lens cannot move in or out unless you loosen up the adjustment ring. Then you can adjust it however you need it to again. Now obviously most people are going to set their ocular focus, they're going to lock it in place, and they're not going to touch it. So that's why I do really appreciate the locking ring. In the past I've had to use gaffer's tape or duct tape or hockey tape or witness marks or whatnot. So that's just something that I don't understand why more companies don't use. Thankfully Zerotech is utilizing that. So now what's my expectations for the scope? I think it'll compete with absolutely anything on the market, and it'll hold its own very well. Just comparing to the 30mm version, I have used this scope side by side next to a lot of the scopes that you really trust. So a bunch of the Night Force stuff, Leopold stuff, what have you, a lot of the top end stuff, and it holds its own phenomenally well. I think this one will perform even better. Having the bigger tube diameter just lets in a lot more light. The glass clarity is phenomenal. Both of them utilize Japanese glass. Before we jump into price, I do understand that Zerotech is a newer company, and it's hard to spend a bunch of money and trust a new company. But I will tell you that I think you'll be hard pressed to find a bad review of any Zerotech optics. Zerotech started out mainly focusing towards hunting optics, because that's what's big in Australia is a bunch of hunting. Now with a little bit of help from some different people, they've been able to get a good market going in the US. and start focusing some towards optics like these. So competition precision optics and more defensive type stuff. So now obviously this is the TREMOR3 reticle, and that's SOCOM's reticle, and SOCOM ain't hunting animals. So this scope is a very purpose-driven optic, and it's on par to compete with a lot of like the Leopold stuff, the Night Force stuff, you know, just the really well respected companies that have been putting out stuff for a long time. This right here will hang right there with them. So now the price of this optic, MSRP, the TREMOR3 reticle comes in at $28.99, and the RMG comes in at $27.99. Now the TREMOR3 reticle is not Zerotech's reticle, so they have to basically buy permission to use that reticle. So that's why it's $100 more, because they have to spend money to be able to use it. Now the RMG reticle is phenomenal as well. It's a lot cleaner, a lot more simple, but I love the TREMOR3 reticle, so that's the one that I've got. It does have lifetime warranty. Customer service is absolutely phenomenal, and again, I've just had absolutely no complaints with Zerotech optics whatsoever. So now again, I'm very much aware that this is not a review, because I don't have anything to review. This is just first impressions, unboxing. I will be running it in the match this weekend, like I said before, and I will be giving you my thoughts. I'll do a review later on down the road, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road when I've got a lot of time behind it, and I will give you an updated review. So for the time being, stay tuned, turn on notifications, be sure to follow me on Instagram, that'll be linked in the description, and 1000% definitely check out the Zerotech optics. They'll be linked in the description below as well. I don't get any sort of kickbacks from Zerotech. I don't get paid by them. I just get a free optic every once in a while, and this is really worth talking about, so I wanted to get this video out for y'all on the release date, so just so that y'all can have a little bit of information to go off of. So again, thank you for watching, and be sure to tune in for the next one.